This world is full of cruelty, where INFJs stand out as the most empathetic souls among us. But not everyone out there appreciates this gift of empathy. In fact, some people exploit it. They take advantage of INFJs' compassionate nature and violate their boundaries, all for their personal agendas, and sometimes for some pretty silly benefits. INFJs, driven by their innate desire to help and make a positive impact, often find themselves on a never-ending cycle of abuse. They start by extending a helping hand, but as time goes on, the lack of boundaries can turn this empathy into a struggle. Today, we're going to shine a light on this issue. We'll explore 10 tactics that people use to exploit INFJs. The knowledge and self-awareness is the superpower for INFJs, and understanding these tactics can empower INFJs to navigate the intricate web of human connections with wisdom and resilience. Stick around, it's going to be eye-opening. Number 1. Guilt tripping. Guilt tripping involves making INFJs feel responsible for the emotions or actions of others. Someone utters those infamous phrases like, "If you really cared about me, you would ... or "You're the only one who can help me." These seemingly innocent words can create a profound sense of obligation in INFJs. INFJs might find themselves bending over backward to meet these unreasonable requests. It's like an invisible weight pressing down on them, compelling them to comply with the manipulator's wishes. Picture a friend saying, "If you cared about me, you would drop everything and be here right now." Or a colleague saying, "I'm really counting on you to cover my shift. You wouldn't want me to lose my job, would you?" These statements tug at the heartstrings, making INFJs feel guilty and obligated to step in and help. It's a classic manipulation technique, and it can take a serious toll on their emotional well-being. So, how do INFJs respond to this guilt-tripping dance? Well, initially, they might play the hero, rushing in to save the day. But over time, the emotional toll becomes apparent. Guilt becomes a heavy burden, and as INFJs struggle to juggle their own needs with the demands of others, it can lead to a spiral of self-doubt and emotional exhaustion. Imagine a scenario where an INFJ's friend constantly plays on their guilt, making them feel responsible for every twist and turn in the relationship. The emotional toll becomes overwhelming, leaving the INFJ questioning if they're ever doing enough. It's like a never-ending cycle of self-sacrifice. In the end, guilt tripping is like an emotional maze, and INFJs often find themselves lost within it. However, understanding this tactic is the first step toward breaking free from its clutches. Number 2. Playing the victim. Playing the victim is essentially an emotional strategy where individuals cast themselves as helpless sufferers, always facing insurmountable challenges. Now, why does this hit INFJs hard? Well, INFJs, driven by empathy, have an innate desire to help those in need. They can't resist the call to rescue, to fix perceived problems, and bring harmony to the chaos. Imagine a scenario where a friend constantly paints themselves as the victim of circumstance, saying things like, "I can never catch a break," or "Life is just so unfair to me." These statements trigger the INFJ's nurturing instincts, compelling them to step in and be the hero. INFJs might find themselves on a slippery slope of rescuing others at the expense of their own well-being. They become so entangled in trying to fix the perceived problems of the victim that they neglect their own needs, and the emotional toll begins to mount. It's like a tangled web of emotions. INFJs, trying to be the saviors, often neglect to see the subtle manipulation at play. The manipulator, reveling in their victim role, keeps pulling at the heartstrings, and INFJs, with the best intentions, get caught in the emotional crossfire. The emotional toll on INFJs is profound. As they try to fix the unfixable, the emotional burden becomes overwhelming, leading to a sense of frustration, exhaustion, and, at times, a deep sense of inadequacy. Number 3. Silent treatment. The silent treatment involves purposefully withdrawing communication or affection, leaving INFJs in a state of emotional limbo. INFJs are deep connectors who value profound relationships, and the fear of disconnection is like a primal instinct for them. When faced with the prospect of being ignored or excluded, INFJs often find themselves scrambling to avoid the silent treatment. This fear influences their behavior, making them more likely to conform to the manipulator's desires to maintain connection. Manipulators know this, and they use the silent treatment as a form of control. The silent treatment creates a void of uncertainty and anxiety for INFJs. It triggers a fear of abandonment and rejection, pushing them to question the stability of their relationships. This emotional distress can manifest as feelings of inadequacy, self-blame, and a deep longing for resolution. Imagine feeling like you're walking on eggshells, unsure of when the silence will end and if things will ever return to normal. INFJs, with their desire for deep connections, are especially vulnerable to this tactic. By understanding the impact of the silent treatment, INFJs can learn to set boundaries and recognize when they're being manipulated. Number 4. Excessive flattery. Excessive flattery is like a flood of compliments and praise, often more than what would be considered normal or sincere. Manipulators use this to stroke INFJs' egos, creating a dynamic where the INFJ becomes reliant on the positive feedback. Imagine a scenario where a colleague constantly tells an INFJ, "You're the only one who really gets things done around here," or a friend repeatedly exclaims, "I don't know what I would do without you. You're the most reliable person I know." These compliments may sound positive, but they serve as a subtle form of manipulation. Now, how does this tactic work its magic? Excessive flattery aims to create a dependency on validation. INFJs, valuing authenticity and positive connections, may find it challenging to set boundaries when faced with continuous praise. The fear of withdrawal of approval becomes a powerful motivator for INFJs to comply with the manipulator's wishes. This struggle with setting boundaries can lead INFJs into a cycle of overcommitment and self-neglect. They may find themselves caught in the trap of seeking external validation to feel worthy, inadvertently giving the manipulator more control. Number 5. Overwhelming emotion. This tactic involves using intense displays of feelings like anger, sadness, or desperation to manipulate others, and INFJs, with their empathetic nature, can find themselves caught in the storm. A manipulator deliberately amps up their emotional expression to coerce others into complying with their wishes. It's like an emotional tidal wave designed to overwhelm and sweep away any resistance. Imagine a scenario where a friend bursts into tears, claiming, "I don't know what I would do without you. You're my only support." Or a partner expressing intense anger, saying, "If you loved me, you'd do what I ask without questioning it." These emotional displays are carefully crafted to tug at the heartstrings of empathetic souls, like our dear INFJs. When faced with someone in deep distress, INFJs feel an instinctive urge to soothe and alleviate that pain. Manipulators exploit this tendency, making INFJs more susceptible to compromising their own well-being in an attempt to calm the emotional storm. This emotional toll can lead INFJs to compromise their boundaries and prioritize the manipulator's needs over their own. Number 6. Triangulation. This tactic is like a subtle chess move, destabilizing INFJ's sense of security and creating emotional turbulence. Triangulation involves manipulating a situation by introducing a third party to create conflict or competition. Now, why is this particularly impactful for INFJs? Well, INFJs thrive in environments of harmony and connection. and the fear of conflict is like a dark cloud on their emotional horizon. Imagine scenarios where a manipulator strategically involves a third person, perhaps a friend or a colleague, to stir the waters. It could be as subtle as making unfavorable comparisons, or as overt as sharing information meant to incite jealousy or competition. The manipulator, aware of INFJ's aversion to conflict, uses triangulation to create a subtle power play. The fear of disrupting harmony or causing conflict may lead INFJs to acquiesce to the manipulator's desires. The emotional turmoil is profound. INFJs, attempting to restore balance, may internalize the conflict, questioning their own role and worth in the relationship. The fear of losing the connection and disrupting harmony can lead to feelings of anxiety, self-doubt, and emotional distress. Number 7. Exploiting vulnerabilities. This maneuver involves manipulators gathering information about an individual's insecurities and using it against them. Manipulators often engage in subtle reconnaissance, gathering information about INFJ's fears, doubts, or past traumas. This could be through attentive listening, casual conversations, or even indirect probing. Once armed with this information, manipulators can use these vulnerabilities as leverage in their psychological game. A manipulator subtly brings up a sensitive topic, knowing it strikes a chord with the INFJ. It could be an offhand comment about a past failure or a not-so-innocent remark about an insecurity. These actions are designed to unsettle INFJs emotionally. It's like opening old wounds, stirring up feelings of shame, guilt, or inadequacy. INFJs, who are typically strong and resilient, may find themselves grappling with a sense of vulnerability and exposure. The challenge for INFJs in setting boundaries becomes apparent in this context. The fear of having their vulnerabilities exploited may lead them to avoid confrontation or assertiveness. The manipulator, aware of this vulnerability, can subtly control the narrative, making INFJs more compliant out of fear of emotional exposure. So here we are, dear INFJs. Take a moment to reflect on your own experiences. Have you ever encountered these tactics? How did you navigate them? And what did you learn? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found value in today's video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell.